Okay, we'll call the finance meeting to order tonight. Could I have roll call, please?
Alderman Demas,
Present.
Thompson, Patak,
Here.
Reynolds,
Here.
Laveri, Jepson,
Present.
Herndon, Crane.
There. Thank you. We'll call our first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes held for August 18th, 2025. I need a motion.
Here, I'll make a motion. Second.
We have a motion on the floor by Alderman Reynolds, second by Alderman Demas to accept the minutes of the Finance Committee meeting August 18th, 2025. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Item number 2, discussion of potential recommendation to accept and place on file the fiscal year 2025 finance audit and related matters. John?
We'll just run through a couple things that the auditor had given us. Instead of appearing here, the auditor gave us a written report that I have shared with you guys, but just want to hit the highlights of this. In the introduction, you'll see that the audit went well. They had good communication from all city staff, and all city staff were cooperated in answering all their questions. And their opinions of the handoff, or their opinion of the audit, you'll see that in the handoff they call the audit a clean or unmodified opinion. It basically states that our financial statements have been prepared in compliance with the generally accepted accounting principles, and they had no material findings on compliance with the applicable laws, so that's good. The summary of the audit, one of the things that they did was they compared the cash balances at 4/30/25 to where they were at 4/30/24. In summing all of the cash balances of all the funds up, the overall net effect of all the funds was we were up about $22,000, or we were up about $45,000. So our balance at the end of 4/30/25 was $22,579,466, as compared to the prior year of $22,534,087. Specifically, how that applied to the general fund. The general fund saw a cash increase of $416,000 from the prior year. The cash in the library funds was up significantly from the cash in the library funds from compared to fiscal year last year was up 1.2 million, almost 1.3 million, and that's largely in part of the donations, which Joe can correct me if I'm wrong, but those have now passed.
Yep, that's correct.
So we probably won't see anything like that in the library for a while. I'm suspecting we're probably at the maximum cash position, or the healthiest cash position the library has seen. Going forward, that those fund balances will probably be depleted, not to zero, but you'll see them going down. TIF 1 and TIF 3 cash balances increased about 1.1 million. This is typical for TIFs to accumulate to hold off for financial infrastructure projects. The water and sewer funds decreased to about, when you add the water and sewer balances, the decrease in both of those decreased together about 2.5 million. That's due to largely from the capital improvement projects that we've been doing in water and sewer, but we have been doing a lot, and it has weakened our cash position in water and sewer. That wasn't unplanned. We raised those rates to generate those funds to do this work. We'll just have to be conscientious and careful about which projects we pick going forward, because we need some of those cash balances to increase a little bit again. Overall, the city was able to keep the cash balances consistent with prior years and still have a pretty good cash position at the end of the year, despite some large debt payments that we've made and capital outlay payments that we completed during the year. On the long-term debt, you see that we paid off some principal from the IEPA loan on the wastewater treatment plant, but we also took on some new EPA debt, and that difference was, I think we paid down about $700,000, but we took on about 1.5 million more with the IEPA or the EPA with the loan and forgiveness plans. Those are pretty low interest rates, but we do want to be careful about adding too much more at this time. And then the last thing the auditor commented on was the net pension liability figures. Keep in mind that this auditor makes the pension audits a part of their report, but they are not the ones who do the pension audit. Lauterbach and Amon do that for both the police and fire pension, but they're required to put them in these financials. That net pension liability on 4/30/25 totaled $15,600,580. This was an improved position of about $60,000 from the prior year. So we are making some progress on the pension. It is taking time. And that decrease in liability is usually the result or the difference in the actual rate of return in investments held by the pension plans compared to the expected rate. Other than that, I gave each of you guys a bound copy. It's on your desk, the green bound copy. We have a limited number of these. You may take it home. You may read it. When you are done with it, instead of tossing it away, if you could bring it back to me, that'd be great. I will keep them on file here because we do have a limited number of these, so it's good to keep those here. But on page 57 and 58, you'll see the general fund. I know that's probably the thing that we pay the most attention to. You'll see the general fund at the end of page 58. You'll see the change in fund balance, the actual of that increasing $474,000. So you can see the general fund position, which started the year at 2.3 million and at about 2.8 million. So we are slowly building up reserves in the general fund, which is good. Again, it's a good practice to have those reserves stay at about 6 months reserves of the general fund. So we're shy of that, but we are in a much better position than we were 5-6 years ago when we might have been probably 2 million the other way. So we've positioned ourselves nicely to gain some ground in the cash balance of the general fund. So I think if you want to look through that, if you want to look through this, the preceding pages from I think starts at about page 52. From 52 to 57 is the general fund. So you can look through each one of these general fund revenues and general fund expenses from every single fund that we have, every single office or everything that lives in the general fund. You'll see what we budgeted and what we came in actual, and then if we were over or under on that. So I know we do take a pretty conservative approach with budgeting, and we try to hope for the best and plan for the worst. So we do overstate some of the expenses as to what could happen in the appropriations form, but we always try to come in better than that. We did again this year. So that's where we stand in the general fund. That's where the audit report is. And again, I encourage you guys to take these home, look at them, and if you have any further questions, about the financials, you can ask. But I would recommend that this is the auditor's findings, and whether you have a question or not, it doesn't change for the numbers. So we can go ahead and approve this tonight would be my recommendation.
That's the same as the loose leaf we had in our packet? Are they exactly the same?
Yes.
Okay.
I sent you guys I sent Brent an electronic version to include in the packet. So you do have the electronic version, but if you prefer a bound copy to sit and read, this is what these are for. And you may have this as well. Just ask that you hand it back when you're done with it. If you do leave it on your desk, I will try to collect them.
Okay. You can have mine because I got the other copy. Plus
Are there
one of
any
my
questions for John?
What you said on the sewer and water fund, what's your recommendation for that? And you said we need to bring that up a little bit.
Yeah, my recommendation would be, we have projects that are currently we have projects going right now, right, Brian, they're going to last quite a while yet. I don't know, what do we have left on the projects going on in the water treatment plant? I know that we have the well, and then we have to build the treatment facility around it. So yeah, we have projects going on, and the actual deep well and valve replacements and hydrant replacements. It comes up to be about $9 million. So divide that in half for forgiveness. So I think we have like 4.5 million that we'll have in a low interest loan over a 30-year period.
some point, we're gonna hit, and we've discussed this, a break point where that money, we're not bringing in as much as we're sending out. So we have to be cautious with that, and that's what John and I have talked about.
Of not, yeah, and we've taken on the capital improvement projects that we can take on right now. What I'm saying, Jordan, is I wouldn't recommend that we do anything new that's that big, that we can handle. I mean, I think we can handle the general maintenance items and vehicles and equipment and things like that. But the large $1 million plus projects, I would suggest we get our arms around this and build up some cash reserves before we take on too much more.
John, is the small yearly rate increases on water and sewer still in effect?
No, we have not had a rate increase since 2020.
Okay, so that expired, whatever we passed.
Well, we made a decision since we had a lot of grant funds and the EPA loan and forgiveness on that to hold those where they were. We have not had to entertain looking at those because our cash position has been pretty strong.
So is the ordinance still in effect, but we just waive it each year? Is that what's been?
That's a good question, Doc. I don't know if it's still in effect or not.
Yeah, I can't remember if we did.
But
That
the-
might be
the ra-
something we need to look into. because
The rates we had passed back then have stayed the same since.
The water and sewer infrastructure, that's huge to me. Any money that we can get for that is very important because slowly but surely everything's gonna need replaced. So.
I want to say we passed an ordinance about 14 years ago that automatic rates yearly. I think it was February, but we had such a surplus that we weren't applying in the last few years, and I don't know if that was 20 years out. We had passed an ordinance for how long? So.
Well, and with these grants, we've been concentrating a lot on the supply side, the wells, the treatment of that with the deep well. The next go around that we were looking at with forgiveness kind of dealt more with the distribution, trying to fix some of those issues. But that's still a big dollar amount that would be, that's what we're being, I'm concerned with at that point is getting that next low interest loan with forgiveness to be able to do some of the needed improvements that are the water main replacements. One of the things I wanted to bring up is that we are going out to bid for 2 emergency water main replacements. It's going to be bid September 12th, and that could be $400,000 we weren't planning on. But when they blew up, there's not much left of the mains, and that's on Creve Coeur from 11th all the way to Gunn, or Gunn all the way to Charters. So that's one stretch that is in really bad shape. That not much left of that main. So that's going to be something coming up soon that we hadn't budgeted for.
And I'm assuming we'll have some expenses going into lead lines at some point as well.
Right. So their infrastructure is, as you know, we are with the sewer, we're cleaning and televising. We did the southern half of Ward 2. We're going to do the northern half, and then hopefully do Ward 4 and Ward 3 and 4 over the winter. There are sewers that need attention, whether it's lining or digging up certain sections and fixing. So I also have the same fear or same concern that Alderman Crane does, that we're concentrating on the wastewater plant, fixing, getting that up to date. There has to be some strong consideration in looking at what's underneath the roads, what needs to be fixed. So on the agenda tonight is a storm sewer that has failed, similar to the big ones that we've done. This is a smaller one on 8th Street that needs to be relined. Now it's relatively small dollar amount at $32,000, but it's still something. We did put lining under the budget, so we do have money for that in our budget. However, I was planning that money more towards sewer sanitary, not storm, and we're seeing some failures there. So it's all around. There's concern. We got to make sure that we're taking care of the water and the sewer mains to make sure we're, providing what we need to provide.
On that one on 8th Street, whereabouts is that?
It's just west of Joliet. It's on the north side. We have barricades around it
Okay.
because there's a 4-foot deep void underneath the sidewalk because it just keeps taking in dirt. You can't fill it anymore. So if we approve it, I talked to the contractor. That was a low number. They said they could get in and fix it within the next 2 weeks to line the whole thing. But, that's going to be a discussion at the council.
I think one of the things we can do is maybe with the finance chair and maybe the water sewer chair, if we can financially forecast some things out 5 years and look at rates to be ready for February. Maybe between Brian and I and those two aldermen, we get together and have something to propose back to the rest of the council. Once we get a look at it, but I think it is a good thing to do to look at it and see where we stand and see what we project for some of those expenses down the road.
Well, and it's hard not to go after the IEPA low interest loans because we're getting them under a 1% number and we're getting the 30-40% forgiveness on those dollar amounts. So if you do a $5 million project, you're getting the project for about $3 million out of your pocket that you spread over 30 years. So it's value, but you can only do that so many times. And that's where I'm concerned we're up against that wall. We're up against that point where we really, without having more income coming in, that we can continue to do all of our maintenance items that we do, the vehicles and everything else, the water tower painting and cleaning, and then still have enough money to do the other projects. So
I'm water chair, and I think, Diz, you inherited sewer.
Yeah, I'm wastewater.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
Brian, you mentioned 2 emergency water mains.
the other one's Malcolm next to the school.
Okay.
That right at the water tower, we've had a couple blow-ups there. And water breaks. I don't want to say blow-ups, but main breaks where we've kind of band-aided it with a couple valves. And on O'Connor, they installed 2 valves on either side, knowing that we were going to have to go north. And unfortunately, the way all the utilities are, we're going to have to go in the street to be able to get it there. We have fiber on one side and gas and sewer on the other. So we're going to have to go on the road in both of them to be able to do this, just because it's restricted with all the different utilities already there. So that increased the cost. However, it allows us to pave the roads where needed and fix some other issues.
That's why it's important to look underground before we pave the road, because we can pave the road with MFT and then a month later we realize we need to replace the water or sewer underneath of it.
Well, and that's why it's hard to inspect the water, but we can inspect the sewer.
Right.
And without a detailed or a knowledgeable employee that has been around for a while, knowing where all the breaks have happened. And yeah, we don't want to do this. So I try to talk to them before we finalize the MFT. Unfortunately, one of the alleys we paved this year got dug up right away because their 2 service lines had collapsed into the main. And it was 12 feet in the ground right below the water main. So unfortunate. And if we if that alley would have been done next year, we would have already resolved that sewer, because that's the next section we're televising and cleaning. So unfortunately, we threw away a little bit of money there to be able to do it. However, I feel good that we're gonna clean sewers and continue on,
Right.
and make those identify any bad locations prior to next year's program or prior to doing anything. But the Malcolm Avenue has been on the radar to pave for a couple years, but I didn't want to do it until we had this main replaced.
Okay,
So we're gonna be replacing that main hopefully this fall and then doing final overlay in the spring.
okay. All right, are there any questions on the bills?
None here.
I was
Any
gonna-
comments?
I was just gonna ask if we could raise, if we could find that ordinance when we raised rates last time.
Yeah, I have it and I'll bring it when we meet.
Okay. I assumed you had it before I asked Brent to look for it. Thank you.
Did we get an official motion to make this recommendation to the city council for the
yes.
audit?
Thank you.
I move that we accept and place on file the audit.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Alderman Laveri, second by Alderman Jepson to accept the recommendation to accept and place on file the fiscal year 2025 financial audit. Can I have roll call, please?
Alderman Demas.
Aye.
Patak.
Aye.
Reynolds.
Aye.
Laveri.
Aye.
Jepson.
Aye.
Crane.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carried. Thank you. Okay then, no comments, no questions on the bills. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor by Alderman Reynolds, second by Alderman Crane to adjourn the meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.